Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we have a very special broadcast. I didn't even ask her how to pronounce her last name. I hope I say it right. Emma Fiala is with me from themindunleashed.com. And number one, they do amazing work there. I'm going to let her talk about that for some time. I've been following it since I was working for We Are Change a couple years ago. A ton of articles. We've cited it over there. So, Emma, why don't you tell us a little bit about the website first and how you got started with it?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me on. So the Mind Unleashed has been around for a while. I'm a little bit newer there. As you know, a lot of crazy stuff went down in the independent media realm, well, the past couple of years, but specifically last year in October when a bunch of pages were deleted off of Facebook. And some people who lost their pages during that time have collected over at the Mind Unleashed because it's one of the biggest pages on Facebook. Which unfortunately doesn't actually matter a ton right now because they're barely giving us any traffic. But we've got 9 million likes over on Facebook, and we're just trying to keep people updated on especially the Epstein case, but news from an independent perspective and carefully because Facebook is really being quite picky about what we post right now. But if you want to check us out, if you haven't heard of us, we are The Mind Unleashed on Facebook, or I do recommend just going straight to themindunleashed.com and not using social media as the middleman because can't trust them.
Well, before we get into Epstein, let's talk about that point for a moment because
Sure.
one of the frustrations was when, I started with the Art Change, we had, I think, over 500,000 on both sides, likes, follows, or whatever on that page. So over 1 million plus, actually watching the page at some level. And our posts got absolutely no traction. And there was just really no talking to Luke and being like, listen, man, why don't we just give up on this because it's garbage. It's not helping us. And now with that release from Google, wearechange.org was on there. So how much do you put into your own website unless you're going to email out every single day what articles to click on, which some people do, and that is a business model. I've kind of just said, you know what? I'm going to go full throttle on the two platforms that I know they shouldn't be able to ban me on because I don't preach hate speech. I don't preach wild conspiracy theories, right? I don't call for violence, et cetera, et cetera. I point to mainstream articles and documents live on the air, and if they'd like to contest that, I'd like them to. So I'm just, trying to put 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 videos a day out, not only on Epstein, Nexium, Bilderberg, the Technopoly, et cetera, the War Machine. I mean, things that you guys cover. And that's why I think it's so important to kind of go into this underreported article, and I even missed it. And I've been covering this for years and years and years and really been on top of it the last few weeks. In the hours before the suicide, the swap out, the murder, et cetera, we have no idea. Whatever happened to Epstein that day, he's meeting with a quote-unquote young, pretty girl in a locked room for several hours. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So the only thing that I saw come across on this topic was this article from Forbes, and I was searching around for it to see if anyone else was talking about it, and it seemed like this really important, obscure detail that Forbes, surprisingly, was the only one who had it out there. So I knew right away when I read it, this is strange. For multiple reasons. People definitely need to know about this. I imagine that a lot of Mind Unleashed readers and readers of independent media in general don't go to Forbes for their source for too much, especially Epstein. So yeah, I jumped on that and read the Forbes thing and pulled out everything that I thought was specifically important and got that up quickly because how strange. I saw the way that you reacted to it in your video, and you definitely felt the same way that I did.
Well, let's talk about it because it's from an anonymous source, probably, presumably another lawyer that was there to visit one of their other clients. And from the other reporting, Epstein was trying to meet with his attorneys as long as possible every single day, so he would be locked in a room and basically away from the special housing unit, away from other people, being able to mess with vending machines, basically exerting his force and wealth, okay? But what wasn't good optics is we don't know whether this woman was a lawyer. If you look at the women that surround Epstein in most cases, what do they look like? They look like young, pretty blonde girls. Even that video that's just come out with the Prime Minister's daughter, ex-Prime
Yep.
Minister of Australia's daughter, Paul Keating, leaving Prince Andrew there. He's with what appears to be, I mean, maybe she's 21, but she looks like she could be 16 or 15
Yep.
or whatever. And a lot of these women that he seems to be associated have this same exact look. You know, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, when she was of that age, she had that look. If you look at Nicole Junkerman that Johnny Vedmore has done work on, she had that look. So what is your take? Do you think that this is maybe one of his proteges, one of his girls, one of his procures, one of his? I mean, let's throw out. These are all theories, guys. But who could this woman be, and why isn't the press interested?
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind that I think most people probably think about is the fact that he was alone in a private room for we don't know exactly how long. The anonymous attorney said at least 2 hours. It's a private room where he goes in, the door closes, his cuffs are off, the door locks, completely private. So what might have happened in the room? Was it a meeting? Was it somebody associated with his attorneys? Or was it what we potentially expect of Epstein? It's something to wonder. We'll never know. But I did wonder shortly after this came out, we heard about Epstein's trust that he created and a couple of other things that have happened since then. So maybe she had something to do with that. But the way that my mind goes is, like you explained, we know Epstein, we know what he does, we know his relationship with young, pretty girls. So a lot of people's minds kind of went in that direction when they first heard about this.
Yeah, but the thing is,
whatever it was.
This is what I think. Because even if you go in that direction, I don't think it's just going to be anybody. I mean, maybe it's going to be his current girlfriend, but there's maybe a possibility it's someone that's been with him for years to kind of go over what's going to happen with his estate, because maybe he knows he's going to commit suicide, or maybe he knows he's going to be taken out. I don't really know. I mean, there's always the possibility that, you know, he's the one that orchestrated all these people leaving and falling asleep and the wrong guard being there, et cetera, et cetera. He's a man of means. If you, again, believe now the will, all the money and estates he wasn't able to hide through other foundations and trusts we probably still don't know about, they're saying $570 million right now. And I thought this was interesting. I want to go over this with you, because there seems to be, you know, we talked about the transhumanism and tech aspects of this. He tried to get an associate, a science advisor of Bill Gates, Boris Nikolic, to be the executor of his estate instead of his brother, Mark. And now Gates is refusing to reveal why he was flying on the Lolita Express with Epstein 4 years after his release from prison. And we've talked about this. You know, this is a powerful guy. He still had his connections. Everybody was still associating with him, even after they knew who he was, maybe to pander for money, maybe to pander for sex. I don't know. I know a lot of people out there are speculating. What's your take on that relationship and all this, you know, executor of the estate and will stuff just before this event happens?
Yeah, it does open up that question, like you mentioned, that he has the power to coordinate all these things. He could have coordinated everything that happened in the jail that day and then gotten all of his ducks in a row with his estate before this happened. That could have been something that happened. It could also not be. There's so many questions and so many things we won't know the answers to, unfortunately. But I think it's very interesting that Bill Gates has popped up again in this way, and definitely something that more people need to continue looking into. Every time something like this happens and there's another little connection, it's on us, independent media, and just the general population to keep the pressure on. We need to know why that guy, why someone associated with Bill Gates, why did Bill Gates continue being in contact with him? He needs to answer to this stuff. It's not enough for people like Trump and whoever has said, once I learned this about him, I stopped talking to him, or I didn't hang out with him as much, or I banned him from Mar-a-Lago. Like, that's not good enough. I want to know why Bill Gates was still associated with him and why they have this connection with the estate now. It's important.
Well, the other thing is that, you know, everybody's got that hashtag Clinton body count, Trump body count,
yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. And I'm reading through the black book, and I'm like, guys, you got to understand. I know that they're the president, but they're mid-level gangsters. You know, they got to the president on somebody else's dime, somebody else's promotion. And a lot of those people, excuse me, are in the, you know, why isn't it the Jean-Luc Brunel body count, or why, and I'm not trying to say that he's involved in whatever happened here. I'm saying there are a lot of players. Bill Gates, pretty powerful guy. I don't know.
Yep.
Prince Andrew, arms dealer for the royal family. Nobody likes to talk about that aspect. The only worth hundreds of billions of dollars to the United Kingdom. I mean, these are real things, and they're like, I don't know how much Bill and Hillary Clinton are worth. I would assume maybe tops 100 million. That's peanuts for these people. That's like one tomahawk. Get out of here. Like that's nothing. So let's speak to what you're working on now with Epstein, because now there's also been kind of this push to attack the alternative media for even asking questions about Epstein.
Yes.
We've seen some of those articles. And you put me on to an article, I believe it was from the New York Times, where it was shown that after Epstein had kind of been caught up in this, he started buying influence in mainstream media, the non-fake news, the authoritative sources out there, that every time you get to the end of one of my videos, they like to push Fox for some fucking reason on my show. I don't know. But you get the next video will be a Fox video, and then it will be all Fox videos. I am not affiliated with Fox. I would never work for Fox. Okay? Unless they're hiring me for The Simpsons, I'm uninterested. So let's talk about, kind of this media push right now.
Yeah, so I was really happy to stumble across this article. Well, just in general, how often independent media is attacked, regardless of the topic. It's not just Epstein, it's everything. Everything that we do is looked at under this intense microscope, and any error is social media platforms, especially Facebook, will be like, fake news, give you a strike against your page. Meanwhile, mainstream media makes mistakes all the time, which happens in the news when stuff is happening fast. Mistakes do happen, but we're totally on a different level that they look at us. We can't make mistakes. Mainstream media is allowed to. And mainstream media is allowed to apparently get bought off to report positive puff pieces about a convicted pedophile. So now we're getting criticized for asking questions. It's a conspiracy to ask questions about this, apparently. Meanwhile, we have evidence now that there has been in the past, at least, some sort of conspiracy where mainstream media has reported on Epstein exactly what Epstein wanted reported on him. That's huge. And everybody needs to pay attention to the fact that things like that happen within this case and everything. But specifically right now, that these are huge outlets that the New York Times called out here: Forbes, National Review, and HuffPost. So now,
wait, Huffington Post lies? Huffington Post is pay to play? Holy shit!
Crazy,
I can't believe it. Continue. I'm sorry.
So when we see coverage now coming from these outlets about Epstein, we need to also have this mental note that in the past they've been paid off to report certain things on the same exact guy. So are things like that still happening in mainstream media reporting on this case?
Well, let's stop.
Possible.
It sure seems to be, because that New York Post article, the pictures have now been debunked. It looks like they photoshopped an advertisement for Good Boy, showing you that product placement is now taking place in real journalism. Think about that. It's that next level of progression of a false reality that's being pushed on you, so you'll be a better consumer. Now, on top of that, you have to ask yourself, why in the world would they promote that book? If they're staging the photo, which they obviously are, do they do it on the fly? It doesn't look like they do it on the fly, although it looks like she's maybe the photoshopping was just the ad, that them putting that ad in, and it was in LA, and she is in an In-N-Out burger, et cetera, et cetera. But just that alone, that her lawyer took the picture, didn't even take her dog out of the picture. Forget about the drink and the tray, right? That's there. I get that. But the dog, people are going to figure out that's your dog. I'm just saying. Yeah. So what's your take? First of all, Ghislaine Maxwell not being in prison should show people, number one,
yes,
we totally failed with Epstein. I said that. If we didn't prosecute him, we totally failed. It shows you we live in a banana republic. Okay, we have for some time. I've been telling people this for a very, very long time. The deep state is real. It is not left or right. It is on both sides. Trump coming in, thinking he was going to be a fucking superhero and telling you he was going to take him down. Guys, he twice failed to give you the JFK documents. Think about that. If he can't reveal the deep state from 50 plus years ago, he isn't saving the world today. So he's a part of that apparatus. Okay? So that's why Maxwell's not in jail. That's why none of these other people are in jail, even though, Tony Figueroa, Ronaldo Rizzo, Leslie Groff, Sarah Palin, they've all been named. Only 3 of them are working with them right now. We only know of 3 employees in that indictment. So what's your take? What happens from here? Why is she not in prison? Is she on the East Coast? Is she on the West Coast? Is she really in France? I mean, what's going down?
Yeah, that's a good question. Where is she? And that's what I started asking immediately. Well, as you know, I've been following the Epstein case for a couple of years now, and that's an interesting thing to note also, that the majority of the people that work in independent media have been familiar with this guy for a while and what's been happening. And a lot of the mainstream folks, like, maybe they have, but chances are they haven't. And we follow this stuff because we care about it, not just because it's going to bring in some traffic and make some money or whatever, like mainstream media thinks. But that was one of my first questions. As soon as all this stuff started going down, even before Epstein was dead, I was like, where is she? Why isn't she being brought into this too? It's been, even mainstream sources are saying that she was his right-hand lady, like always there. They're not hiding who she is and what she's done. Obviously, she's an important piece of this. And so I was asking immediately, where is she? Why isn't she being talked to? Why isn't she in custody? Whatever they need to do. And why is his island still operating like a normal island? Why is no one there? Like we had all that.
Why is Rusty Shackelford able to get drone footage in 4K and do more investigation than any fucking federal authority that we ever had on that island? And then when the feds and the NYPD show up, so does Rusty. And they decide that they're going to put up barriers on the window. I mean, we live in cartoon world. I've been saying this for a very, I know that's the new hip thing to say in the alt-right alternative clown world or whatever. I've been fucking saying cartoon world, track trace database well over a decade. I've been talking about this. They've been doing this same thing again. It's a generational thing. This isn't new. That's what I don't understand. That's, I think that's one of the reasons that Trump got as popular as he did, is because, even 3-4 months ago, he's on Fox News talking about the military-industrial complex. But then in the same breath, he talks about Afghanistan being the Harvard University for terrorism. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? He's so able to, put a reality out there, but then spin it in a manner that benefits the John Boltons of the world and the Mike Pompeos of the world and the true monsters that have been trying to really encompass all of Eurasia for decades now. And that's why this whole thing is big. I mean, when we look at Epstein, what is your take on the possible intelligence connections? Now, we already know the globalist connections are there. I mean, CFR, Larry Summers, that should be alarming enough. There's a Clinton cohort. I always get, oh, you hate Trump, Burmese. You never attack Clinton. I go after Clinton all the time. Stop. And then on top of that, you have Trilateral Commission, which to me is even bigger. It's the slightly more public version of the Bilderberg Group that brings in the Pacific region, a.k.a. Japan and Asia. Okay, that's, and that's a David Rockefeller project with Zbigniew Brzezinski. In fact, when I was studying this to find out when Epstein was there, and we confirmed 95 to 2008, maybe 2011, that's what Vicky Ward says, but I'm not quite sure. I wasn't able to confirm that. The fact that Brzezinski and Rockefeller came up with the Trilateral Commission on a plane to Bilderberg in 72, because the rest of the steering committee did not want to let Japan in, is just like mind-blowing. And, Rockefeller was around well into the 90s and the early 2000s in those things. So there is a connection there, and Rockefeller, for those that don't know, he started in naval intelligence, guys. He was a military intelligence guy, very intelligent guy. So without further ado, your take on Epstein and intelligence.
Yes. So there's a couple, for people who don't necessarily maybe know about those potential connections, there's a great series on Mint Press News right now by Whitney Webb. I also work with Mint Press, and it goes into the background about all of these, some of the potential intelligence connections. And we've got an article by Derek Rose on that, on Unleashed as well. It's an important question to ask, and it's another one of those things that, like, we have tiny, tiny bits of the information, so it's hard to connect the dots and hard to figure out exactly what's going on. But one thing that I like about his potential intelligence connections, whether that's through Maxwell, there's a whole Mossad connection there. There's so many angles that it can go, is that more people are paying attention to this story and realizing all of these strange connections. And, a couple of months ago, most Americans would have thought something like this was just purely a conspiracy theory, that there is no potential big pedophile network, that a person involved in this kind of stuff could not be friends with everybody on top. And now that's reality. We know that's true. Some of those people might still think that the potential for these people to have intelligence connections is a crazy conspiracy, but we're getting closer to the mainstream acknowledging that this happened. So as bad as this whole case is, I do like that it's able to reach some people that would have thought that all of this stuff was crazy before, because Epstein has a history with so many people that are connected in so many places and so many different countries, so many other intelligence agencies, that there's no doubt that there's connections there. And, we might not figure out exactly how all of these things are connected, but it's there. There's in every angle. there's people, like I mentioned,
but let's say
Whitney Webb and Derek.
You said Maxwell, right? You started with Maxwell. Now, it seems with a staged photo and her reading the Book of Honor,
yes.
The life and death of CIA operatives, and it's staged. Now maybe she wants to play up that angle. I mean, again, you could think maybe it was on the fly because it was sloppy and the dog was there, and maybe she was actually reading that book. But then in rapid fashion, that phony Amazon review came up. And that's that's the other thing. I try to keep discernment. I try to report what's out there. But in this case especially, it's so cartoon level and unreal. The man has a blue and white temple with a golden dome on it with all sorts of occultic statue. I think Pan was one of them out there at the time. And then he has this big occultic sundial out there, and he's got underground, caves. It doesn't look, Rusty pretty much proved that. You can see them embedded. I don't know how deep they go, but they're certainly under the ground. He brings in the cement truck. I think a couple weeks before his arrest on a rush delivery. A lot of people have asked me, did he know that this was going to be the end prior to this? And I say to them, I don't think he would have come back from Europe. I mean, you're a 66-year-old man that's done pretty much everything you wanted on a disturbing level. I'm sure your ego is huge. In fact, your initials are imprinted on your clothing everywhere you go. Another thing they don't talk about on that island is that he also has JEE on one of the main estates there as well. I mean, talk about a narcissist. It doesn't get any bigger. And, to go to the even more bizarre level of having a huge mural of Bill Clinton pointing in a dress, which I don't know, it screams to me, hey, Billy, you're my fucking bitch. I don't know how, I don't know about you, but if I walked into a close associate's home that I've done finances and trips with in charity, and he had a large picture of me in a dress on it, probably wouldn't like that guy much. It would send the message. So what do you, we're at like 22 minutes. I want to get you for the full 30, but what do you think are the most bizarre aspects of this case, and what do we need to be paying attention to right now in the future?
Well, that painting sure is bizarre. Pretty much every detail about the island is bizarre. I wish I could say that it's bizarre that he got away with all this for so long, but it's not. It's because of who's connected with. We know that this kind of thing can happen. It's unfortunate, but not surprising. So not bizarre. From here, we need to keep the pressure on. Maxwell needs to be taken in. Something needs to happen with her. From here, we just need to, like I said, keep the pressure on. People need to keep educating themselves. We need to not let this die. The news cycle is so fast right now. There's always something happening. There's going to be another shooting. Someone's going to bomb someone. Something's going to happen that's going to get this out of the news. Like it happened before. Epstein was in the news because he was arrested. And then we had 3 mass shootings in a short amount of time that took over the news. And Epstein was pretty much gone until he killed himself. Or supposedly, whatever it is that happened that day. We need to keep focus on this because the biggest thing to me is the victims need justice. It sucks that he's out of the picture now because we're finally getting closer. some of them have been battling for so long, and he's such a powerful person where he could just get himself out of it every time. Their lawyers were getting sued. Everything was coming from every angle, and I can't imagine what it's been like for his victims to actually put themselves out there and to risk this. To see him out of the picture, that's incredibly disappointing and discouraging. So for his victims, pressure needs to stay on for anyone that's involved. Anything that we find out in this process, anyone mentioned in his black book, and like we were talking about before, Bill Gates. Now that there's more connections popping up with him, we need this to continue, because this isn't just Epstein. This goes deep and this goes wide, and there's a lot of connections that need to get looked into, and it's probably going to be more up to us to keep this in the forefront of people's minds, because it's going to disappear from mainstream media until there's something that they think is worth reporting on, because it's, they get their orders from the outside.
Or they get them from Epstein himself, apparently. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, again, that's a crazy article. I want to go to that one more time. Jazz, if you're joining us late, this is being downplayed, but the New York Times is reporting that Epstein was buying off media outlets for positive spin. That's how the system works. And remember, involved in universities, charities, globalism, technology, just about every facet of the upper echelons of society, of that predator class that I talk about: royalty, arms trading, etc., Wall Street, fashion, art. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and that's how you entice these girls. Emma Fiala, she writes for themindunleashed.com. What can we be looking forward to next?
Well, I do want to do my own piece on that New York Times thing that we were just discussing, because that is, like I mentioned before when we were talking about it, incredibly important. So we're going to have something coming soon about that, and then just trying to keep, anytime something new pops up anywhere about Epstein, just trying to keep all of those dots connected. What comes next is kind of up to what gets released. Hopefully we'll see some more great content coming from Derek Broze soon. Maybe not necessarily through the Mind Unleashed, but through the Conscious Resistance Network, his own outlet. He does some amazing videos on Epstein. He's got a documentary that he did in 2018 that kind of almost predicted where we are now. So that's worth looking into also. And he should be getting some more installments of that coming in soon too. But my next goal is to report on what we've been discussing, that New York Times revelation, because that's big. That's important for everybody to know about. And the stuff that you just mentioned about Epstein being connected to all of these things, the arts, the sciences, universities and colleges, that's exactly what these articles were about. The New York Times piece has some quotes in it of what those articles had said about him, calling him a smart businessman, one of the largest backers of cutting edge science around the world, and all these positive things. And all those articles have been removed now, which is also sort of amusing, but disappointing that these outlets can just delete those. So that's what I'm going to have coming next. But like I said, anytime Epstein stuff pops up, we're going to write that with our own spin on it, connecting the dots that some of the mainstream outlets are not connecting for you. So keep an eye on, just type the Mind or Epstein up in our search bar, and then you can keep up with everything that we're
you should be checking out everything that the Mind Unleashed does. They do great work, guys. Emma Fiala, thank you so much for joining me. We will definitely have you back on when you are available next, and some of the stuff that people go on. I mean, we get Derek Broze on here. We've had Whitney Webb on here. We like the Conscious Resistance. We love Mint Press. We need more independent voices like yourself. So once again, thank you, and we will see you soon. So guys, here we are at the end of another show. I saw the typo now. I'm very glad people point that out. It is not the Mind Unleashed. It is the Mind Unleashed. I apologize for that. We're doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 videos a day sometimes. So make sure if you're new to this program, we do more than just interviews. We do deep dives. We do stuff on the Technopoly, Bilderberg, Nexium, transhumanism, biotechnology, microchipping human beings, all that stuff. You better believe it. So make sure you thumbs this video up, share it with others, and become a member of the Burmis Brigade by subscribing. We fund this through you guys. There is no Patreon. There is no Subscribe Star. I don't do a little dance in a hat for you. There are no private chats, etc., etc. I'm not a pay-for-play guy. I'm not the Huffington Post. It's not me, but I do give everything I do away for free. So if you like that and you want to give me $5, $10, $15, that's how I support myself through the GoFundMes once a month with a $5,000 goal. I thank you guys so much for being a part of this, and I will see you all on the flip side.